Hello once again, watchers of good movies. My name is Nick Pell, and this is my review of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now this is Quentin Tarantino's ninth film, which he has directed, and it is very much revolved around the murder of Sharon Tate by the Manson family. It's not the central part of the movie, but it takes place around that event and pretty much leads up to it. The large majority of the film, however, focuses on Leonardo DiCaprio's character Rick Dalton, as well as his stunt double, Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt. Rick Dalton is an actor who has been in a lot of westerns and is famous for those types of roles, such as a TV show in the 80s that he did, and he's trying to make it more big time and be known not necessarily as a villain or as this one-off character. He's trying to basically break out of the role that he's been typecast as. Cliff Booth is having trouble finding work as a stunt double, and he's basically under Rick Dalton's payroll. So it just kind of follows him around and is basically his butler, more or less, just in a less professional and less official way. DiCaprio I want to touch on first because he does a really good job in this movie, because he does some scenes where he is basically acting within a movie, and he does these really long takes which just are done in a really well done way, and just he pulls off the stutter that this character has really well. And if I didn't know any better, which I do, but if I didn't, I would say that DiCaprio has the stutter because it seems so realistic, and yet when he's doing this acting on screen as his character, he's just able to put that away and do the roles, which I don't understand personally, but it worked as a character, and I really enjoyed seeing him on screen. Brad Pitt as Cliff Booth, also really awesome to see on screen. I haven't seen Brad Pitt in a lot of things recently, so he's a welcome re-addition to Hollywood. The majority of his story revolves around finding work as a stuntman, but also dealing with this hippie girl, which he keeps running across when he's driving on the road, trying to get hitchhiked to this ranch where she and a bunch of her friends are living at the moment. And so his story largely revolves around that, and he has some more of the comedic roles in the film, such as his fight with a certain kung fu actor, which I won't give away. And when these two are on screen together, they work really well. They have really good chemistry, and to my knowledge, they haven't been in a movie together, DiCaprio and Pitt. And so just seeing how well they work as a duo in this film is really fun to see, and they just play off each other quite nicely. Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate, she also does a good job. She just doesn't have a lot to work with in this movie, and she is probably the one negative that I had, not Margot Robbie per se, but just her character and her story in general, because it doesn't really seem to fit necessarily into the rest of the movie until maybe towards the end of the film, just because if you know the history behind where this film is technically set, you can kind of understand, by the end of the film at least, why she's in the movie, but I won't go into that here. But for the most part, like 90% of the film, it seems like she's just kind of out of place, and you can almost wonder why her character and her side characters are even in this film in the first place. The film is hilarious, though. There were many times where I was laughing out loud along with the audience. This is partly due to both Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth's characters, just comedic moments that happen on screen, really funny lines, and the ending to the film just had me and the rest of the audience just cracking up, just because of how outlandish it was, and just how fun it is and unexpected it is to see on screen, to the excessiveness that it was delivered. And Quentin Tarantino is pretty much known for a lot of heavy violence and kind of satirical violence in his films, such as Django and Hateful Eight and Pulp Fiction and Inglourious Bastards, to name a few. And so you would expect there to be a lot of that type of stuff in this movie. This is probably the least violent Quentin Tarantino movie, because up until a certain point in the film, it's very tame for the most part. There's not a lot of violence, there's not a lot of nudity, there's not a lot of things that you would normally kind of expect with a Tarantino film, which is a little bit refreshing, but it also kind of keeps you on edge to an extent, because you almost wonder when it's going to show up, and it shows up, but for the large majority of the film, it's very tame and doesn't have a lot of violence, so that was kind of interesting for me and made the film stand out a little bit more among his repertoire, I think. So guys, overall, I really enjoyed Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It is paced really well. It is a 2 hour and 40 some long movie, and so you're going to be sitting there for a while, but it's paced in such a good way that keeps you invested in the story and the characters that it just kind of flies by. This film, I checked my watch periodically just to see kind of how far along it was, but it was never because I was bored with the movie. But overall, I quite enjoyed this film. It's very well acted, it's paced really well, the ending is fantastic, I think, in regards to kind of what it does with its characters and the lead up and build up to the basically the final scene. Again, if you know the history of the event that this film is more or less surrounding, it makes it all the better when you realize kind of how the film ends up ending. But those are my thoughts on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know. Also, let me know your favorite Quentin Tarantino film. I have not seen as many as I should. Yeah, let me know your favorites in the comments down below, including this one, if this one ends up being your favorite. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe once again if so choose. I appreciate it immensely. And as always, my people, my name is Nick Pell. And once again, keep on watching.